Welcome to The Life Affair. My name is James Atkinson. Thank you for choosing to join into this week's episode. Now, in this week's episode, we've got a fantastic client in the chat. So, we've had a little chat about your hair, haven't we? And Jessica likes copper. Let's just take it down so you guys can see it. Headband. Look around so you guys can see. A little bit of copperiness in there already. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. And if you do, then please hit the thumbs up button. If you're new here, subscribe for more content like this. And let's get on with the episode. We're going to put in the lighter pieces around the front first. Inch and a bit back from the hairline, or just over 2 centimetres, and then we've curved it round to the top of the ear. Now obviously ears are always in different places, so be mindful of how much hair's there, and it wants to be a little bit more than you've got up at the top here. The way to judge it is to look at the density of the hair on the ends and compare it to what's on the opposite side. And then we're going to come through, I'm going to do a very kind of soft weave, somewhere between a baby light and a regular stitch. Saturate through. So our next section is going to be a few millimetres back from the first one. Almost back to back, I would say. You know, there can be barely any gap in between the two. Just keeping these sections really, really fine around the front. They want to be really fine because they want to be almost seamless coming out from the head here. So then our third foil is going to come back about 5 millimetres from the front hairline. And again, we use the same size weaves in this section. Just making sure that we're kind of happy. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be enough up to the root, because what we're going to do is we're going to tip out the rest. Yeah, because of the nature of Jessica's hair here being a bit softer through the front areas, we can take this on in a wanner from the front, which is nice because then we'll have just 3 sections to tackle. So again, just making sure that we weave out a very fine piece. What we don't want to incorporate is the shortest hairs into this. Those do want to be left behind on this one because they'll look a bit strange if we incorporated them into that front section. And again, try and leave a similar sort of spacings in between each of them. I'm going to create a little bit more space in between this one and the previous one, just going up to about 5 millimetres. The good thing about this technique is it just repeats itself throughout all of the sections. You don't have to be too worried about remembering kind of very specific technique, doing lots and lots of different things. Okay, that's that for the foils up to the root area. Now we're going to tip out. What we need to do is kind of determine, this hair is quite long compared to this hair and will always remain so because we're going to cut a shape that takes more shape into the front here. So what we want to be kind of thinking about is through this side section we want to split this and not take it on in one, because this hair does need to be lightened too. So take the section, tease it back up towards the root area, apply the products. With that bit of back combing there at the root area, or up towards the foil, it's going to create that little bit of softness to help diffuse this technique at the bottom here. And this is when you see it on the internet tipping out, this is what they're talking about. And again, bigger section here, just come in from the ends, tease up towards the root area. You want your section to be super fine, you want to be able to see right through your section. In with your foil, saturate, saturate, saturate. It's really, really important. Okay, in the front here it's a little different, obviously, because the hair's substantially shorter already. But we're going to take the same principles that we did with our previous section, even though we're just doing it on a shorter length of hair. Teasing some of that hair back, and when the hair is shorter it's always harder to tease away, so you have to make several passes, or more than several passes in this instance, to get that hair to move back. And you can see it now starting to kind of bunch up there towards the foil, and that's what you're looking for in terms of getting some of the hair away from the front. In with our foil. Also, just for extra softness on this particular one, vertical brush strokes really help to diffuse the start and stop of this technique. You can also use your tail comb or whatever you're applying with saturation at the point at which it starts and stops as well. And then we've got a little piece of hair. It's a little easier once you get above the foils because you can just push it back to the root area. If you need to start from the shortest point of the hair, use those upward brush strokes as you apply your product there just to help disperse any of the saturation. So again, just taking that shorter piece of hair from the underneath, teasing it up, and then taking this whole piece of hair again and just coming in at the ends, feeding it towards the root area, and there we go. Come in and saturate the hair as well as you can. Okay, so that's all the foils applied to the hair. We're now going to put global colour over the rest of it. Just starting the back, as I mentioned, we've taken a section that runs kind of around. Leave this to process now for 20 minutes and then we'll tone that front piece down a little bit. I'm going to make a decision that when I actually see it incorporated with the rest, I don't want it to be too light. It's obviously going to lift lighter than I want it to be, but I do also want to clean out any of the natural pigment within the hair so that I have more choice when it comes to actually toning that front. Now obviously we mentioned previously with that front section we are going to be cutting some of it away, so I've got to bear that in mind as well when it comes to toner selection, that there's not going to be a huge amount of lightness remaining there. It's going to be mostly hidden underneath the sections anyway, so it's kind of just taking that into consideration when it comes to toner choices. We might want to make it a little bit brighter basically so that it's more visible when it's actually styled and down. Okay, we've finished Jessica's hair. Here is the cut, the colour, the works. Let's talk a little bit about the colour. We did this lovely little bit of tipping out through the front. We've got a little bit of softness travelling up towards the root area here in the fringe. Over on the side here as well, you can just see those little bits of lightness peeling through that front there and kind of travelling into the length, which is really nice. And obviously we put that overall base colour over it just because didn't want it to be too pale looking in terms of colour. You know, she's a fan of ginger hair as I am too. Just feels like that's probably a little light for her skin, and I agree. So I think this is a good depth for her. It's not dissimilar to her natural depth, probably half a shade lighter in terms of the reflect. In terms of reality, it's actually a shade darker, but because it's a really warm colour, warm colours will always reflect the light more and therefore be perceptively lighter looking. Then I really like that soft colour through the front. That's 8 CB Copper Brown, and I've just made it a little softer with some clear just to sort of create somewhere in between an 8 and a 9 level. That's the colour side. Thanks very much for joining us